What it do, anime crew? Amen. Listen, today I'm going to be ranting about Midori, which is a 55-minute long anime horror film directed by Keita Kurosaka, and I watched it last night. It was very good and very interesting. It has that sort of specific horror anime art style, animation style. I'm not exactly sure what you would call it. That the woman who stole fingers has, and just like a ton of other stuff. Everything by Keito Kurosawa. It's a very distinct art style. If you look it up, you'll know exactly what I mean, and it's something that's like specifically present in horror anime, more typically independently produced horror anime, which is somewhat what this is. It is the longest anime I've ever seen which has this style, because I imagine it is extremely painstaking and time consuming to make, like on some Mad God shit, like stop motion to your stuff. But Keito Kurosaka did an amazing job with that. I mean, the scenery in here is amazing. There's really cool warping camera angles and unique architecture that allows you to view like multiple stories of this one house at the same time. Really interesting background art. The color design, which is why this is sort of reserved as a horror anime thing, is extremely like washed out and bland, because it's like damn near a monochromatic palette, just due to the nature of the animation style. And I would say my main complaint about this movie is sometimes it's so rough and so rugged that you can, but it's like, it can be hard to tell what's exactly happening on screen sometimes for a minute, which to this anime's credit, it plays to its advantage, because this anime is about a vegan girl who wishes upon a star to be transported to a world that's like totally vegan, where nobody eats animals. I believe she refers to it as the land of the vegetables. And I'm not actually sure if she's supposed to be the main girl or if she is the vegetable. Who knows? But she gets her wish in whatever capacity that may be, and you are transported to this world with a scientist woman who's essentially trying to solve resource scarcity. She's trying to create some sort of food that can last forever and solve the giant hunger crisis facing like a apocalyptic dystopian Japan. And she's got like frogs living in her house. All the characters in this world are like, some of them are normal humans, but most of them are like fish people or apple people or banana people. Some people have like hands and eyeballs for heads, like all this weird stuff. Like to represent the five senses, there's these like five guys, and they all have like different body parts for their heads. This is an extremely obtuse movie with the messaging. There's barely any dialogue. There's some really good atmospheric score to it. I really liked a lot of the soundtracks. It's very simplistic but effective. I would say the sound design is pretty good as well, but you know, the star of the show is definitely this extremely detailed art style being prolonged to a length that I had never seen before. I can only imagine it took this guy years to make this shit, even if there was a team behind the animation, of course. But it's about this vegan girl, basically, and she's sort of on a journey to learning to not be so moral and just eat meat. Basically, she's doing her research, and this giant thing like flies through her window, and it turns out it's a little plant baby with a baby face, and it starts crying wah wah like a baby. And it's like, what is this thing? What is this thing? And she's like, well, it's a plant. I looked into its like molecular structure. This is not an animal, it's a plant. But like, why does it look like a human? Why is it a baby? This is so weird. And she starts trying to like raise it and protect it as her own. But everybody around her's like, ooh, whoa, what's that tasty looking plant? Oh, we got to get some of that. Let's eat that plant. Looks so delicious. Hey, don't keep that all to yourself. We want to eat that plant. And everyone's trying to eat the plant, and she's just sitting here like protecting it. And there's a little bit of interesting commentary here where I kind of took this show's message as like somewhat anti-vegan, I guess, where the thing was like an absolute monster child. Like it was probably willing to eat people or eat other plants or do whatever if left to its own devices. So it was kind of like one of those things where it's like the circle of life. If we don't eat the animals, you know, the animals will be trying to eat each other. And it's like, well, what about the herbivores, which are most of what we eat, generally speaking. And it's like, well, even them are eating plants, and this series sort of posits at least a fantasy world where plants would also be eligible for moral consideration, I suppose. It's like the interesting thing about the vegan argument is that it's basically an argument as to how far we should extend moral consideration. Like, how far away from being a human can you be to still like receive consideration on this level? People in the past have argued that animals don't deserve it because, they're not capable of reciprocating it. They're not capable of understanding it. They don't really have as robust moral codes, and more so just like act on their impulses and don't really repress that. It's just like any ethics they do have are like purely instinctual and not really constructed. So like it's a little bit of a commentary on that perspective, I suppose, but eventually the little plant baby does get eaten. And then the inflation starts. There's a lot of inflation imagery in this movie. And it's sort of supposed to emphasize the cycle of consumption and death and then rebirth. So it's like, he gets eaten and then he gets born again out of the body, and he starts growing and he keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually he gets so big that he can't move anymore and he's kind of dead, and everybody just starts like ripping chunks off him and eating him. And this lady's like, what the hell are you doing? How can you consider yourselves human? This is so bad. And then someone just like throws a chunk in her mouth, and she's like, wait, this good as a bitch, like this good as a motherfucker. And she just starts eating too. And then she starts like kicking everyone off, like, hey, I'm the one who grew this plant. This is my thing to eat. Okay? Like, y'all got to get out of here. And she starts like freaking beating people up. It's this badass fight scene, kid. And it's interesting. That's just how it ends. It ends with her effectively accepting, hey, circle of life, bro. We eat, we consume. We all are just each other. The main message of this movie is that we're all each other. There's this baby face on the moon, which transports this little plant baby down to the earth. And they have the same face. They're supposed to be one and the same. And like all of these anthropomorphic and plantopomorphic character designs sort of represent like, hey, everything has the same universal life essence to it, which none is necessarily more sacred than the other. It's all just looking out for itself. When she sort of comes to the realization, she like has to bite this thing's tongue off that's like trying to eat her, and she's like tasting. She's like, "Look, this is what you are. You're the same thing as this plant." And then she starts going crazy and kicking everyone off and being like, "Hey, it's my plant to eat." This movie's fucking weird, but everything's the same. When she does that, she screams, and then it zooms into her mouth, and her uvula also has the baby face on it. And it's like, okay, every little part of this universe is just this same weird celestial baby creature eating, experiencing, and rebirthing itself over and over and over again, which is sort of a perspective a lot of people get after they take certain drugs and stuff. It's like, we are all one, man. But it's used as a sort of bizarre ethical rejection of sorts. And what I've always thought is the most interesting thing about this art style is that it's kind of blurry, and as I said, it's kind of hard to make out exactly what you're looking at sometimes, but that makes it so that like things can form into each other and become something new very organically without looking jarring, and just stuff can just like come to life at any moment because you can't really tell what you're looking at, and it can just like slowly grow a mouth, and then, oh my god, it's a real thing. And this story does that even with her computer, which is just a totally inorganic non-life form. Her computer is even like sentient and just like grows a mouth and starts saying like, ow, stop, and then the little plant baby kills it, and then there's like a bunch of like goop coming out of it, and the plant baby's like, yo, eat this shit good as fuck, this is delicious. I thought that was a really, really, really great way of utilizing this super unique art style to the fullest extent, because that was even like thematically relevant. This is a weird movie. It's hard to think of like a lot to say in terms of criticism, because it's not a very narratively conventional story. There's little to no dialogue. There's some really, really just like scary, frightening, memorable imagery. It's definitely like a uniquely poignant way of communicating the argument that it's trying to communicate. 'Cause it's something I've heard a million times, but I'd never really stopped and considered it so much until I watched this bizarre defense of like the circle of life and how there's beauty in its like grotesqueness and how we are all just one creature living at one. And I'm like, you know what? I can't say I necessarily completely buy into it, but it's made me consider it more than anything else really ever has. And it's called Midori Ko, which means green, because it's all about eating your greens. And I think that's really the deepest part about this film. Because, you know, if you think about it, it works on multiple levels because it's called Midori, and it's called green, but also, you know, the plants are green, and so she's eating her greens. And, yeah, I felt that. But, yeah, that's about all I have to say about this thing. It's really weird, but it's really good. I recommend you guys check it out if you're a fan of horror anime. It's literally on YouTube. I don't know where else it is, but it's on YouTube. Have fun, I guess.